This screen guess is going to show you how to make a simplified version of the windshield that is shown in your Part 8 file. So it looks really complicated, but we can simplify this a lot, and we'll only actually have to use a couple tools that we have learned before. So I'm going to start with my sketch, and I'm going to create a sketch either on my YZ or XY plane, whichever you prefer. So I have a lot of dimensions here, and we want this shape of the curve of the top of our windshield to be this exact curve. So what we're going to do is use a series of points and then use these dimensions, these exact dimensions, to place each portion of our curve on our part file. So I'm going to make a series of points, and I'm going to dimension each of them. So I'm going to make this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. And I'm going to just put them really anywhere for now. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's my 7 back here. So what I'm going to do is dimension all these points. So I'm going to say from my farthest point to my frontmost point is from here all the way to the front, and I can see that that's 3.01. And you can see those points start to spread out on their own. So I know that the distance there is 3.01. I'm going to dimension all of my X distances, my distances side to side, all these top ones first. And I can see that they're all being taken from this front point. So they're each being taken off of that. I have my my big one, but I want to make all these smaller ones now. So I know that between the first two is 0.5. Between my second two is 1. My third two, 1.5. The next one, 2. And that one's going to be 2.55. Okay, so my X's and the distances are all set. I can now do my vertical distances, the Y distances on that you can see on the right. So let's move this. So from my bottom to this second point right here, that gives us 0.31. Now I'm just going to do that same thing for all the rest of them. 0.56 is the next one. 0.75. 0.89. This highest point is 1. And this point is 0.64. They show us on the opposite side. I think they just thought it was getting a little too cluttered over there. Okay. So I have all of those dimensions in there. And it looks a little crazy because I have so many lines, but it's okay. I want all these points exactly where they need to be. So I can see over here that they're giving me a radius of 0.4. That means that I have an arc here with a radius of 0.4. So I'm going to take my arc tool. I want it from here to here. And I can see that as I move, this blue box is changing my radius. So I want that radius to be 0.4. I can just type it in and click enter. If you click first, you'll have to use your dimension and change that. But that's fine. You can always just go and change that dimension that way. So what we're going to want to use to connect all these points now. I see over here I have a radius of 6 of this arc. but I don't have a point down there, so let's just add a point on that bottom spot where you can see that those two lines meet up. And I see that I want that to be 6. And you can see it's just so slightly bent. Basically, it's just a straight line. The point of ours, if you click your zoom all, the point is all the way over here. This is the center of that circle. If this arc was continued all the way around, this is the radius of our arc, this 6. So that's why our circle, our arc looks so small. So I'm going to use my spline tool now and connect all of these points. I'm just going to click and I'm going to get this. Oh, let's do that again. Let's zoom in. So I can see all these points that I want to use. So I want to go from there to there to there, there. And I'm going to click my check. And now I get this spline that is exactly on exactly the same dimensions that I have here. So let me zoom back out. And I have this whole top portion of my on my windshield. You can see from this section view, this is if I just cut this in half, the long ways, you can see this middle box that extrudes out, but we want to just make the top and then we'll make that box inside of it. So I can see if I just close this, use my line tool and close from the bottom over to here, I now have a complete shape. So if I try to extrude this now and finish that sketch, if I try to extrude this, it will extrude out. And then I can shell out the inside so that we will have this portion cut out. So it says over here that this is going to be how far we need to extrude it. So this 2.55 is all the way from one side to the other. So I'm going to check that. So I can see now that, let's spin around. Okay. These portions should be rounded, the outside of my windshield. So we're just going to use our fillet tool on this side, and we're going to see what type of fillet would be good. So 0.5, that looks a little bit too extreme. Let's do maybe 0.1. Now I can see those sides are getting rounded. I can see if 0.2 maybe. I think 0.3 looks about right. So let's check that. And let's do the other side. Okay. So we have our whole sides filleted now. And what I want to do is shell out this bottom. So let's use our shell tool on this bottom surface. And it says over here that our thickness is 0.07, so let's use that. So you can see now I got that windshield portion. That looks pretty good. All I need to do now is just add this box extruding out. So that's the box that's going to click your windshield into your passenger base, where all the people are sitting in your car. So what we have to do, we can create a sketch of this rectangle and then extrude it up. And I'm going to show you a different type of extrusion where it will extrude until it hits the next point. portion of our sketch. So what we want to do is create a sketch on this bottom portion right there. And they give us some information here about the windshield's rectangular extrusion, but they don't give us very much, so we're just going to use what they give us and think about what we can do for the rest. So we have this rectangle. We know that from the top of the rectangle to the very bottom is 2.26, and this portion is 0.29. So if we take 2.26 and subtract out that 0.29, we'll get the height of our rectangle. Similarly, this way, 0.68 is the distance from one side to the other, but 2.22 is the total distance here. So let's do 2.22 minus 0.68. And there we go. We can escape so our dimension is gone, and we can drag this wherever we want. Now I want to make sure to use these dimensions and put the rectangle exactly how far it should be. So this is measuring from here to here 0.68. And from the bottom, there's 0.29. So now we know our rectangle is set where it should be, and it turns blue. So if I escape and I try to move it around, I won't be able to because it's locked in. It's basically fixed in that position. We have our fillet on these corners is all 0.15. So let's do a 0.15. And we'll click all those corners. Okay. And now we want to make this exact same rectangle just a little bit smaller, so that instead of using our shell tool, which we could, I want to show you a different tool that we can use. So the tool I'm going to show you is going to be in this Modify tab. The only tool we've really used over here was our Trim, but we can use this Offset tool. We'll click that, and if I click on my sketch, it now takes that exact same sketch and duplicates it, but it will be just smaller or bigger. And I can see if I go all the way down, this is as far as I can go because it's making those fillets in there, and the fillets are enlarging as the shape is enlarging. So let's just make that a little bit smaller. There we go. And we'll finish that sketch. Now I see I have this sketch on the bottom. We can now extrude this portion. We just want this line right there. We don't want it to go that way. We want it to go back. And instead of distance, we're going to click to next. And as you see, before I had distance and it extruded through the top of this, if I just do to next, it will go to where the next extrusion is. So I can click OK there, and now that will just extrude that portion up that amount. So I want to also extrude the same sketch down a little, because as you can see, it's not coming down through the bottom. So if I go over here and I see how it comes out, because it needs to click into the portion of our car, but here it won't be able to click in. So what we want to do is extrude that same thing down also. So let's use extrusion, but if I try to extrude, I get this. It says I don't have a 2D sketch. So what I want to do is take this sketch and I want to right click it and click Share Sketch. Now I can use that sketch again. So now that sketch stays up there, and if I click Extrude, I can now select this portion again and make it come down. So let's just make that an extra, maybe 0.5. Yeah, so that 0.5 looks good. So let's click OK there. Now you can see we have our full windshield, and the last thing I can do is just change my material, my view. Instead of default, I can change that to any sort of thing where it looks clear like glass. You can also just change your material to glass.